Hello everyone, my name is Beckett and welcome back to the channel. And today in Division 2, we're going to be talking about a few things that I wish I had known when I started playing Division 2, since I started after Warlords of New York because I had heard some bad things, but actually it is in a good condition now. I don't know about launch. I wasn't there, but I was there for Destiny 2 launch and it was pretty rough. So like I said, some of these things might sound like, man, you were an idiot. And yeah, I probably was an idiot then, but some things are like, okay, yeah, I can understand. The game really doesn't tell us everything sometimes. And I wish there was something like a new player experience, but there isn't. And until then, we just have to figure things out on our own. But before we get started, if you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe. And if you like the video, smash that like button. All right, first, I want to talk about the recal library. Honestly, I did not even know that thing existed. I knew about the recalibration station, but I was still grinding at 40. So I'm like, I don't even need to talk to the chick. There's no reason for me to recal anything until I got a decent set and something I can build on. And I was like, oh my God, I could have been putting things in the recal library from level 31. So at level 31, you can start saving stats that you want to reroll, talents, as long as they're not perfected, like they come from name items or exotics. So if you want that headshot damage, or let's say you want the talent unbreakable in your recal library, so later when you recal and you want to recal any talent, it is good to get started early, and you can start at 40 or you can start at 31. Either way, it is a good thing to get started. Now, while we're on the recal library, I would suggest any item that you are thinking about keeping, make sure you mark it as favorite. So when you go and save something in recal library, if it is not marked in favorite, it will just show up. And sometimes you're not paying attention, especially early on, you're just trying to get all the stats, and especially stuff in your stash. Make sure it's in your stash, because I did that and I was like, I knew I had these gear pieces, really good gear pieces, and they were gone. I was like, oh my God. How many pieces of gear did I lose? It was about 50 or 60 before I realized what was going on. And it was a terrible situation. And I had to farm out all these pieces again. So just don't make a mistake like me, and don't be as dumb as me, and just learn from what I did. First off, let's talk about keys, and especially Division Tech. So there is Division Tech, and if you're in New York, you can go ahead and open those caches while you're leveling, but really don't waste your Division Tech on it. There is really no reason. The gear is pretty bad, and there's a lot better ways to farm it when you get to level 40. And now when it comes to keys, I know it's very tempting to open those hyena boxes or whatever, but just go ahead and save them, because you're going to get a lot of good loot from them when you hit 40. And not to mention things like the hyena keys you're going to want to save, because you can get an exotic called the Chatterbox, which is one of my favorite exotic SMGs in the game, and it's very fun to play with, and you need hyena keys for that. So just don't waste it. There's really no reason. If you are leveling and you feel like you have a piece of gear that's just not that good, go ahead, just go and craft it, and it's going to be 10 times better than what you get. All right, let's talk about the secret vendor and the secret missions. Now, there is a secret vendor, and if you ever watch my channel, every Wednesday I will cover the loot she has. Her name is Cassie Mendoza, but to be able to find her, or her to locate on your map so you can access her inventory, you have to find the snitch. Now, he's kind of hard to find if you don't know where to look or his common places. I will post a link or something if you don't know how to find him. A card you can click on so you can find the snitch. Now, the first time you do it, you actually have to do his bounty, and then you never have to do the bounty again. You just have to find the snitch every week, and you will find Cassie Mendoza. Also, with these secret side missions, there are some side missions that they're not really secret, but they're hidden, and you have to actually get very close to the NPC. And before, back in the day, before Warlords of New York, it used to have really great things on them, like that you would really actually need to go into the raid or into a high end game content, and it would be like protection, or not protection from elites, but damage to elites. Now it's just critical hit damage, critical hit chance. I think there's a couple other things. I think it actually looks better than the actual vanilla, like critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Some of them just look ugly, and I'm like, I don't even want to put this on my weapon. Now, when it comes to clan, I would just join a clan as soon as you can. It doesn't really matter if it's an active one. That's a little better, but usually there's 4 or 5, and I just joined whatever clan I found. It was like the first one. I got in, I joined it. It's going to give you access to the clan vendor. And also they have these weekly caches, and depending on what level or how much XP your clan is gaining, you can get up to, I think, like 4 of these gold clan caches, and they drop like 4 or 5 different pieces. And in my experience, most of the time it is worth grabbing these every week just because they usually roll with pretty high stats. Like 90% of the drops I've got out of that, they may not be the best rolls or the optimal rolls that you want, but usually they are above mid-tier rolls. And a lot of times I've got some god roll items out of those boxes, so it's always worth picking that up, and it's worth joining a clan, and you might just meet some great people. Now, when I started playing the Division 2, I wanted to experience the campaign and everything completely because I knew I was going to go into Warlords in New York, but I wanted to do everything. Like, I went through every project, I went through everything, and then I was like, man, these projects are just worthless, and I never did them again till about my second or third week. I didn't even look at them inside my projects tab, and then when I finally opened up my projects tab, I'm like, get a free exotic, and I did it right away, and all you need is some resources and sometimes some crafting materials. And then when I did that, I got my first exotic. I ended up having a chameleon, and I was very excited. I had a weapon that I could actually use. Your loot pool is probably going to be pretty small, but at this point you really don't have an exotic, or you might have one, so it's probably going to increase your power level by quite a bit. Now, there is a starter DZ quest that you get, I think, as soon as you get into the game. I don't know what level you get it, but as soon as you can enter the DZ, you'll have a DZ quest. And I actually never did it because I was like, I'll go in the DZ later when I get max level. I just don't like going in there as leveling. I'm just not a fan of it. But I ended up waiting till level 40, and it was a good thing because they actually reward you with a piece of gear and a named item. And that is pretty awesome, especially if you don't have any named items. And I ended up getting the Dark Winter, and it's the same Dark Winter that I always use. It was pretty much a god roll. I'm not saying you're going to get a god roll, but it is a nice thing to have when you hit 40. That's going to help you just get to that extra power level so you can actually get to those hard and challenging, and you can start moving into that heroic and legendary content. Now let's talk about global settings. So you're able to go into your map and change all your global settings, like whatever you want to be in the open world. If you want to play in story, normal, hard, heroic, challenging, I would suggest staying on challenging. Actually stay on heroic if you can, but if you can't, stay on challenging because you are going to get the best kind of loot. It also lets you reset your checkpoints if you did not know. So if you already captured this, and I didn't know at first, and I started messing around, I was like, oh, that's cool. So you can reset all your checkpoints and be able to farm them out again. And this is really helpful when you are getting those blueprints. There are also directives that you can change to increase your experience. Although they do not increase your loot chances in the open world like they do in the summit, it is still nice to know. And also, if you're on keyboard or mouse, you'll be able to just hit R and show your targeted loot. Another thing that I just didn't really notice, there is just so much going on, and I had a lot to intake at the first moments, and I was just worried about farming out this gear like the old ways that I did in Division 1. And it's just nice to know because you can actually farm what you want to farm. Let's say I want to go after an SMG. I can just go ahead and farm that section, that mission all day, especially those people who don't like Summit like me. It's too repetitive. It's the same floor over and over again. About after the 10th floor, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'd rather just go and do a Black Tux mission over and over again, or a Hyenas mission non-stop, than actually sit in the summit, because at least the environment is constantly changing. Even though I've seen the mission 100 times, I'm just not a fan of the summit, and I would like to see some changes, and I think we all feel that way. Now, there are different skill variants, just like this season. At the end of the season, after we kill Fei Lao, we're going to get the Achilles Pulse. Last season, it was the Shrapnel Trap. Now, if you come in and you missed previous seasons, you can go to different missions and go to mission settings, and it's going to let you toggle the mission. And some missions do have a boss where you can kill, and you can automatically get that skill variant. And a lot of people, and honestly, I didn't know until I started messing around with the mission settings. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I can go and get this. And some of them are very useful, and some of them are just worthless. Like, as for me, I still have to go and get the EMP sticky bomb. I have yet to do that. Eventually, I will. It's not really a rush. I don't really use that EMP sticky bomb, and I think the EMP pulse is a lot better. Now, last thing I want to mention is those invaded missions. I would highly suggest doing every invaded mission each week, every time it resets. It is a good way to get loot, especially once you hit level 40. And every time you do one of those invaded missions, you will get a named item at the end. It will just be random, but again, it's just another way to power your character. And especially if you're still in progression, or even me, I still try to do it every week, because you never know what named item you get. You might get something that comes from the DZ only, or you might get something else that you really need, or you don't know that you need, and you're going to save it later. And if you get a named item and you don't know what to do with it, just mark it as favorite, and then you can come back another day. Now, I know some of these things sound kind of silly, and trust me, they are, and I'm kind of like, man, I was pretty dumb. But it's always nice to know. So if you didn't know any of these things, that's awesome. And some of you guys are probably like, I know everything, I don't really need this. But there are a lot of new players, and I always see a lot of new player comments down in my comment section, and it's always nice to see. This is why this channel is here. It's mostly like 99% educational. I want people to know as much as possible, because the game doesn't really tell us much. But if you are looking for any guides down or anything I talked about, you can go ahead to my channel and go to my guides playlist, and it will have everything there, and you might find something you did not know. Now, if you're looking for other Division 2 content, from build videos, tutorials, Division 2 news, everything for old players to new players and everything in between, go ahead and check out my channel, and thanks again for watching.